Good morning, everybody. This is Mike Brennan at the National Hurricane Center. It's just after 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Coming on this morning with an update on very powerful Hurricane Lee, which is this morning located about 565 miles to the east of the northern Leeward Islands. A very powerful storm, strengthened rapidly yesterday and overnight last night. Still has maximum sustained winds now this morning of around 155 miles per hour. Lee is moving off to the west-northwest now at about 13 miles per hour and is going to pass to the north of the northern Leeward Islands and north of Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands over the next several days. Let's talk a little bit about the forecast for Lee, and first we'll take a look at this wind field associated with Lee. It has tropical storm force winds, which you can see here in orange, that extend out about 140 miles away from the center, and then a small core of hurricane force winds extend out about 35 miles from the center of Lee. We have both the NOAA and the Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft flying into Lee this morning, and they've been providing us some really valuable data. A very powerful storm, expected to remain a powerful hurricane for the next several days. And if we look at the track forecast for Lee, we're expecting that west-northwestward motion to continue all the way through the 5-day forecast period. So we're talking all the way through this weekend and all the way into early Wednesday. What we are going to see is a slowing of the forward speed of Lee. Right now it's moving at about 13 miles per hour. Within a couple of days, that forward motion is going to slow down to 6 to 7 miles per hour. So we're going to see Lee moving just very slowly west-northwestward. We are confident that the core of the hurricane is going to stay well to the north of the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and Hispaniola, and to the east of the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas through the middle portions of next week. There are some indications that by the time we get into later portions of next week, we'll see more of a northward turn and an increase in forward speed with Lee as it moves across the western Atlantic. But all indications are we're going to have a very powerful hurricane, expecting Lee to maintain major hurricane status all the way through the middle portions of next week and perhaps beyond. So we're going to have a powerful hurricane over the western Atlantic as we go into the later portions of next week as well. A lot of uncertainty out at those forecast time ranges, but want to encourage everybody in the northeastern Caribbean, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, all along the U.S. East Coast to at least check in at least once a day on the progress of Lee as we go through the weekend and into early next week. It's a great reminder that we're almost right here at the peak of hurricane season. You want to have your hurricane plan in place. You want to have all those supplies. Know if you live in a hurricane evacuation zone. It's just a good practice to be in, and keep an eye on Lee as we go through the next several days because it is going to be a very powerful storm. The good news is right now, at least for land areas, that the core of Lee is going to stay to the north of the islands of the northeastern Caribbean through the next several days. This is the highest chance of tropical storm force winds here in these red and purple areas. You can see them remaining out here over the southwestern Atlantic as they advance slowly to the west-northwest with time. The most likely arrival time, even as we get out toward the end of this graphic for these areas, if we did see tropical storm force winds, say in portions of Turks and Caicos or well southwestern Bermuda, would be getting into the Tuesday to Tuesday evening time frame. What we are going to see from Lee, and we're very confident, is going to be a major wave producer, a major impact to marine interests, and is going to be a major producer of high surf, dangerous rip currents, and perhaps significant beach erosion along portions of the northeastern Caribbean into the Bahamas, and eventually along much of the U.S. East Coast. This is the image you're looking at here is the significant wave height field associated with Lee. Significant wave height's the highest the average height of the highest third of the wave. So this morning, the highest significant wave height we were analyzing at Lee was between 45 and 50 feet. And the highest waves could even be double that. So we could be looking at 80, 90-foot waves associated with Lee. And as we step through time, you'll see the wave field of Lee advance. And as we get in here to Tuesday evening, you can see these colors advancing through the southwestern Atlantic. We're going to see significant swell, dangerous rip currents along the north coast of Puerto Rico, advancing over towards Hispaniola. We'll see some swell moving into the Caribbean through the passages on either side of Puerto Rico. And by the time we get to the Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, we're going to start to see this large wave field reach the U.S. East Coast, again producing dangerous surf, rip current conditions, certainly some beach erosion. So stay tuned for more information as we go forward on that. And just a reminder to everybody that even if the core of Lee remains well offshore, well away from the U.S. East Coast, you can still get the production of dangerous surf and rip current conditions, even from distant hurricanes, even when otherwise it's a very nice day to be at the beach. So you always want to pay attention to the latest beach forecast, pay attention to any warning flags that are flying or advice given by lifeguards. You can always go to weather.gov/beach to get the latest rip current information. And here's a look at the rip current risk. Right now it is high along the north coast of Puerto Rico and portions of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it's actually moderate rip current risk already in portions of North Carolina and from southern Georgia all the way down along the east coast of Florida. Expect this rip current risk to increase as we go through the weekend and certainly into early to later portions of next week. So again, just a reminder, as we go through the next few days, we're going to have a powerful hurricane here over the southwestern Atlantic. You're going to want to check in at least once a day to get the latest updates on Lee at hurricanes.gov from here at the National Hurricane Center. So that's the latest here on this Friday morning, and stay tuned for more information throughout the weekend. I'm Mike Brennan.